All right. Well, President Biden is about to be investigated. This is Clayton's joke. Bigly.
Yeah, it's amazing. The shoe's on the other foot now, isn't it?
Yes. And sadly, the American people know this dance now. So I'm just going to give you, here's the short story. They'll find a bunch of stuff. The opposing party will pretend it doesn't matter and will not vote for any kind of punishment. So that's how this ends.
Okay.
But we got to go through it. So let's go through it because we may, in fact, learn actionable things. And so that's why I think it's worth watching, and even if we think that it's going to end in the same way. So House Republicans have been asking for this investigation, but Democrats have said they're not really interested. But now that Republicans have a little bit of power by controlling the House of Representatives, they don't need Democrats to be interested in order to launch an investigation into President Biden. Now, even Biden's biggest supporters know that this is a curtain that they would rather not look behind. For instance, Hunter Biden. Will we find out why the Justice Department was telling social media companies and news organizations to squash the story about his laptop? Those things are verifiably true now. We know those things happened. Did the president do those things? Why were those favors done for the president? So there are even more questions that Republicans have. Here is Representative James Comer from Kentucky, a Republican, announcing this investigation and its intentions.
We are releasing a report today that details what we have uncovered. We are also sending letters to the Biden administration officials and Biden family associates renewing our request for voluntary production of documents relevant to this investigation. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, the President of the United States, and why he lied to the American people about his knowledge and participation in his family's international business schemes. National security interests require the committee conduct investigation, and we will pursue all avenues that have long been ignored. Committee Republicans have uncovered evidence of federal crimes committed by and to the benefit of members of the president's family. These include conspiracy or defrauding the United States, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, violations of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, tax evasion, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The Biden family's business dealings implicate a wide range of criminality, from human trafficking to potential violations of the Constitution. In the 118th Congress, this committee will evaluate the status of Joe Biden's relationship with his family's foreign partners and whether he is a president who is compromised or swayed by foreign dollars and influence. I want to be clear. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, and that's where the committee will focus in this next Congress. I now turn.
Okay. Wow. So there's a lot there.
Yeah,
a lot there.
A lot. You're gonna be busy. So I guess I get that's the downside of this is like how much then the American people get screwed also because they've been screwed all the time, but all of these committee times, all of the times that Congress spends on this stuff is time that they don't get to work on problems.
Yes, but we also have to pay expensive lawyers for this. When President Trump was defending himself against impeachment, it was White House lawyers that defended him. And who pays White House lawyers? We do as taxpayers, right? And these senators, or they're not senators, they're representatives. They will have a team that are investigative team, and we will pay them too, the lawyers. So we'll be fighting both sides, basically. We will be footing the bill the same way we did during the Trump impeachment trials. And this is a process that sadly Americans are very familiar with. Now that we've been through it twice with President Trump and we had a divided Congress, we know that if the Senate remains Democratic, which it seems like it will at this point, then they will ignore this. And whatever Republicans in the House find, they will bring it up. They may find it impeachable. They'll hold a vote. It will pass the House. It will not pass the Senate. And then we'll be stuck with this president who we are all torn apart. So get ready for that. It does feel like there are real things there that we should have answers to, such as the Hunter Biden bit, such as the bit of like how much money went to the big guy, like that was found in the Hunter Biden laptop.
Right.
How much did he know about his son's investments in the biolabs in Ukraine, which we know actually existed now. The Biden family is not the only things, though, that the House wants to look into. Comer has also said he wants to look into the origins of COVID. That's a little confusing because it started under the Trump administration. But
what did? Because
COVID.
Well, you could arguably say it went back to the Obama administration. So what part of the...
Okay.
You know what I mean? What part of the COVID investigation did it start when Fauci when things were being put in place inside of Ukraine in 2014? Because that was on Obama's watch. What was actually happening at the National Institutes of Health? What was actually happening at these in North Carolina before it went to Wuhan? That was happening on Obama's watch.
Yeah.
So, and he was there as vice president. Right.
And, how much access did President Biden have to any of these biolab research that was funded through Hunter Biden? We've played you phone calls here before, leaked phone calls that show him calling his son and saying, we think this story has been squashed. You're going to be okay.
Right. The New York
Let's
Times
just
piece.
Get through it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of things that we've been told that he doesn't have his fingers in, we found later that he did. Are those impeachable offenses? We don't know, but we can bet that there are some things there that we're going to want to see. That I think even people who may have supported him should want to see. Everybody should want to see this because there's just too much of this onion to peel back. Now, what about the money, though? What about the money bit and Ukraine? And we know that Hunter Biden was offering up access to his father, to officials in Ukraine. What about how much of that still happens? How much of that is still going on? These are lingering questions in the wake of the FTX collapse. And the Gray Zone this week uncovered this little tidbit. And it's amazing because no one's asking this question. We're sort of fine to make fun of this 29-year-old CEO as if he was just a bro and anyone who didn't see past that was an idiot. But the government was very much in bed with this idiot, both the U.S. government and the Ukrainian government. So look at what the Gray Zone has to say about this. See, they say the Ukrainian government mysteriously disappeared online records of its fundraising arrangement with FTX crypto scam just days before the scandal erupted. The initiative claims to have raised over $60 million for Ukraine, but where did it go? That's interesting, don't you think? But the media doesn't think so. The Gray Zone goes on. While mainstream media pores over the details of Bankman-Fried's gargantuan crypto scam, not one single major outlet has investigated or even acknowledged FTX's relationship with the government of Ukraine. CNN? You're not interested?
No.
New York Times? Were client holdings unaccountable and illegally funneled into the West's proxy war? Or did the supposed aid FTX sent to Kiev find its way into the hands of Ukrainian scammers, corrupt warlords, and illicit actors? The corporate media's failure to explore these questions appears all the more perverse given Bankman-Fried's flamboyant promotion of his investment financial relationship with the government of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Many times he virtue signaled about Ukraine. Here's just one tweet. On the same day that the conflict began, he says, we just gave $25 to each Ukrainian on FTX. You do what you got to do. That's particularly obnoxious. Do what you got to do. He's 28. And telling us all what at the time
we gave worthless FTX tokens to every Ukrainian.
How does that happen?
It's so altruistic on our platform.
Yeah.
That you have to download the app and use our platform.
What they really did, though, was they sent it into the Ukrainian National Bank. Here is the donation site that was taken down just a few days ago, but the Wayback Machine still has copies of it. Now, this page was deleted in late October. FTX only fell last week, in the first week of November. So what did the government of Ukraine know in advance? That is an important question, don't you think?
And one that, Kit Clarenberg, who wrote the piece at the Gray Zone, it's an amazing piece. I encourage you all to read it. Was asking, why did they take this down ahead of time? It's kind of the same questions we would ask of senators who invested in or pulled their money out of the stock market in certain stocks ahead of the collapse during COVID, right? What did they know? Oh, they were in private meetings ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
A few days ahead of time, weeks ahead of time, they took all their money out of those accounts. They sold their stocks. What did they know? Oh, and then some of them invested in biopharmaceutical companies. Oh, what did they know? How did they know it ahead of time?
Yes. Now, YouTuber Benny Johnson asked this question. FTX, he says, was a money laundering scam for Democrats because they spent $50 million on electing Democrats this cycle. Will a single Democrat return that money given to their campaigns through theft of regular American savings?
Well, he called it blood money.
Blood money. I'm sorry, I missed that one. Yes, blood money, right? Yeah. And so if you're somebody who accepted this money from your campaign and now you find out that it was laundered money, it was money that FTX was taking, putting in their Alameda Capital sort of partner shell company, and then investing it on their own and then losing it. You're losing other people's money without their consent to do that. And you took that money. Maybe you should think about giving it back before you go on the rampage about regulatory processes. PJ
Smith in our chat says, get money back from a Democrat? Ha ha ha. Yeah. Good luck.
Now, we may see a jurisdiction fight over this, according to the Wall Street Journal. FTX management and the Bahamas are gearing up for a fight over control over bankruptcy because regulators in the Bahamas say he lives here. We're going to take care of it. The U.S. government is saying we'd like to maybe extradite him and take care of him ourselves. And I think, this is my conspiracy theory, is that they do not want a foreign government looking into this because the United States needs to control his story the way they have other salacious people who had islands, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I know.
Like, if he gets extradited,
Gilligan,
some cameras will be turned off so that his story does not get told in full. This is my theory. They're like, oh, no. We can't have somebody else doing a real investigation. We need to control the investigation because a lot of this cannot be, you know what I mean? It's a La Casa Nostra or whatever.
Where are you hiding your coconuts?
Yeah.
On Gilligan's Island.
Meanwhile, SBF, that's the guy we're just gonna call him SBF. He's like J-Lo now. He's got his own. That's what
everyone calls him. So you're not alone in that.
Oh, okay. I thought I was just being cool. I'm the kind of person too.
No one wants to say his full name.
Yeah.
No, so they all call him SBF. Yeah.
Okay. Can I call him?
Now they call him FU.
Can I call him B-Flow?
B-Flow?
Like BF-Low? Like J-Lo? No, well, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, you may not.
You kind of.
All right. I was just trying to one-up everybody, and that didn't work. Okay. SBF is really reeling from not being the cool kid anymore. And with branded condoms and all of that, he just really can't keep his mouth shut about it. And I want to show you a little bit about this Vox. They're calling it an interview. So he spoke to a Vox reporter who was doing this fluff piece about him over the summer, who had developed a relationship with, and he didn't speak to them really. He actually just DM'd a bunch of times over Twitter, I think, and they're calling this an interview, but it was presumably him just kind of going off about what happened to him. And it's strange because he sort of blames his ex-girlfriend. Her name was Caroline Ellison. He made her the CEO at Alameda Capital, even though she had never had any experience with that, and she was 28. So millions of dollars investing other people's dollars with a CEO that had no experience being a CEO at Alameda Capital, which was his. So it was FTX, the exchange, was taking money, funneling it over into Alameda Capital, and Alameda Capital was then investing other people's monies without their noticing. So I'm going to show you some of the screenshots.
Hold on. Let's show the picture.
Oh, let's show the picture of her.
So here they are. Here are those two lovers, those lovebirds.
I don't like how they sort of called her out for being a Harry Potter nerd, like as if that.
Does she like Harry Potter, or they think she looks like a Harry Potter character?
No, they say she's a Harry Potter nerd, as if that is a dig.
I recognize them now because they got in a lot of trouble, didn't they, for stealing a bunch of stuff? Like originally, like weren't they on the
no,
like there's a whole.
No,
was that not them?
No, that's a totally different crypto scam. No, that was those were the New Yorkers. Like I know it does. It actually does look like them, right? Yeah, but no, that's a totally different crypto scam. That they made the Netflix show. Did they make a Netflix show out of it? I don't know, but they Yeah.
That was WeWork.
No. It was. They stole a whole bunch of people's crypto in New York City, and she wanted to be like a TikTok star, and it was it was totally different.
Okay, different people.
Yeah, different people.
Not interested in them. Let's continue to talk about B-Flow. So, we're SPF.
Hey, we said no. If you're going to call him B-Flow, then you have to call Vladimir.
Okay, Vladimir.
Hey, Vladimir, it's me, your friend Justin.
Okay, so these DMs are strange, and it feels like somebody. Okay, he's 29, right? So clearly, this is his quarter life crisis. Most people go through at 29. And he's just saying, like, he's making himself a victim and admitting to all kinds of things. Because when we saw him over the course of the last year in the media, he was really out there virtue signaling about being prepared for the next pandemic and donating to that, and donating to Ukraine and all of this stuff. And he basically now is admitting, I was just doing that stuff because I thought that it, made me cool, made me richer, and I shouldn't have done that. He said as much on Twitter even today, like, I'm done with all the woke stuff. I shouldn't have done that, made me cool for a while, and now I'm not cool. And that's essentially what he says. So in this first screen, the reporter is in blue, and this is him in gray. And she's like, this summer you told me that you would, when I asked about whether you should do unethical shit for the greater good. And he says, what did I say? And she says, you said, nah, don't do that unethical shit. This is like really good journalism. And he was like, yeah, I guess I said that. Let's move on to the next one. And she's like, I'm just trying to figure out if that was PR or off the cuff, answer. And he's like, yeah, I said some dumb shit. It's not true. He says everyone goes around pretending that perception reflects reality. It doesn't. Some of this decade's greatest heroes will never be known, and some of the most beloved people are basically shams, admitting that he was trying to be beloved and a sham. And she says, well, yeah, but you were really good about talking about ethics. And he was like, yeah, it had to be. It's what reputations are made of. And he says, I feel bad for those who get effed by it. This is the line. This last line is that most people are picking up and saying, enough woke politics. It is a joke. He says, by this dumb game we woke Westerners play where we say all the right shibboleths, and so everyone likes us. It is virtuous signaling that's not worth anything if you also are a thief. And so she's like, yeah, but you tweeted out some stuff like, we never invest your deposits. Was that BS? And he says it was factually accurate. And she says, oh, you mean that the deposits were totally not there? Or you mean technically it was Alameda? And he says, yes, technically it was Alameda. So she clarifies and says, so FTX technically wasn't gambling with their money. FTX just loaned the money to Alameda, who had gambled with their money and lost it, and you didn't realize it was a big deal because you didn't realize how much money. And he says, yes, and I also thought Alameda had enough collateral to reasonably cover it. Now, this is where he's throwing his girlfriend under the bus because she is running Alameda, and he thought she was like super cool dude, right? And she says, I get how you could have gotten away with it, but I guess seems sketchy even if you did. And he says it never was the intention. Sometimes life creeps up on you. 29 years old. I mean, I hate to be ageist about this, but this kid like waxing poetic about life, you know what I mean? And she says, well, what's your next plan? And he's like, I have 2 weeks to raise $8 billion. That's all that matters. And she says, well, I hope, those people get your money back. But I got to say, I have no idea how anyone could possibly pull that off from the starting point. He says, well, a month ago, I was one of the world's greatest fundraisers. Now I'm the fallen wreckage of one. But, there's a thing about being fallen. There are people who know what life is like and want to do for someone else. So he's like basically looking for his, who's going to give me a break moment, like Robert Downey Jr.,
Like someone, he's got to raise $8 billion. Who's going to funnel $8 billion to? Who's going to give this guy any money?
The U.S. government.
Well, that's the big question, right? So there's a lot of people wondering why, okay, now the Biden administration is about to roll out $31 billion additionally to Ukraine. hey, I wonder if any of that money will suddenly find its way back into FTX and suddenly people will be made whole suddenly, like magically. Hey, it's not a crazy thing. We bail out all these big banks all the time, right?
Yeah.
So too big to fail because we've got to make sure people are protected. So why wouldn't all these people got burned?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they get protected in the same way?
I mean, because this is not an investment. This is just give me money to give back money that you're not going to get anything for it. So if somebody came along and said, hey kid, I've made my mistakes like this before. I don't know who would feel like doing that. But here's some $8 billion, make it right and don't go to jail. I don't know. But if there is a reason that the U.S. government comes in and says, we're just going to bail you out here, put this on taxpayer dollars, then it's because they had some kind of dark underbelly that they don't want us to see.
Yeah, no, great point. Like, oh, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. We're going to make you whole. Nothing to ask. Move on to the next story. It's Christmas time.
But, this, I was thinking about as I was reading these, I was like, this is Vivek Ramaswamy's book, Woke Inc. This is it. This is the tweet. It's like you're doing unethical stuff, but you're signaling to the rest of the world that you're super ethical about Ukraine and COVID. Meanwhile, you're doing all kinds of nasty stuff, like irresponsible things with other people's money. It's crazy. And it's those of us who put stock on that because we think the CEO is a really good guy.
Right.
He only wears Allbirds. And, that kind of stuff, like Patagonia.
Don't talk bad about my Allbirds. Don't.
Woke shoes. I love my Allbirds,
don't
too.
say that.
They're not. Actually, I've been running in them for 2 years, and I love my Allbirds.
He doesn't wear those things, I hope.
I don't think so. I'm just saying.
Right.
I shouldn't call out a company like that. But what do you think? I don't know.
He wears Crocs.
Yeah, he wears Crocs or flip-flops.
Probably none of the above because he lives in the Bahamas. I really hurt Clayton's feelings right now because Clayton only wears Allbirds.
No, let me just tell you about a company. Look, they're not a sponsor or anything. I don't throw them under the bus. You get defensive on some stuff I say on this show. But when my father died, I had just before my father had a stroke or almost 2 years ago now in December, and he really was struggling to walk. And I loved Allbirds. Like I loved this company. I was like, wow, these guys are great. And so I ordered him because I knew he was going to be shuffling and not be able to tie his shoes anymore. I bought him these Allbirds shoes.
Oh, you mean these that I'm wearing right now?
Yeah, these like slip-on,
these exact ones.
And I bought them for him, and they were waiting for him at home, but he never came home from the hospital, and then he died. Yeah. And weeks had passed, and then I was like, oh, we got these shoes that are just sitting there that my father can't use anymore.
That he never touched.
Still in the box, and it was well past the time of returning them. And I reached out to Allbirds and I said, here's what happened, and they said. They just were the kindest. They just went out of their way. They took it back, no questions asked. They sent their deepest sympathies. Like, I don't know. To me, that's like customer service. So I'm a lifelong fan of these guys. Lifelong fan. So Sam Bankman-Fried's not wearing those shoes. Or please don't let him wear those shoes. Maybe he was wearing some other...
All right.
Maybe he's probably wearing Adidas.
My point is...
No, he's wearing all turds.
All turds.
My point is that all of the virtue signaling in the world does not a virtue make.
Yeah.